Adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rouse. Jataka number 285. Maṇisūkara-Jātaka. To hell shall go he, etc. This story the master told at Jetavana monastery, about the murder of Sundari. At that time we learn that the bodhisattva was honored and respected. The circumstances were the same as in the Khuddaka. This is an abstract of them. The holy order of the Lord Buddha had received gain and honor like 5 rivers pouring in a mighty flood. The wrong believers, finding that gain and honor came to them no longer, becoming dim like fireflies at sunrise, they collected together, and took advice. Ever since the elder Gautam appeared, our gain and glory has gone from us. Not a soul ever knows that we exist. Who will help us to bring disrepute on Gautam, and prevent him from getting all this? Then an idea occurred to them. Sundari will make us able to do it. So when one day Sundari visited the wrong believer's grove, they gave her greeting, but said nothing more. She addressed him again and again, but received no answer. Has anything annoyed the Holy Fathers? She asked. Why, sister, said they, do not you see how the elder monk Gautam annoys us, depriving us of alms and honor? What can I do about it? She said. You, sister, are fair and lovely. You can bring disgrace upon Gautam, and your words will influence a great many, and you can thus restore our gains and good repute. She agreed, and took her leave. After this she used to take flowers and scents and perfumes, camphor, sweets and fruits, and at evening time, when a great crowd had entered the city after hearing the master's discourse, she would set her face towards Jetavana monastery. If any asked where she was going, she would say, to the elder Gautam, I live with him in one perfumed chamber. Then she spent the night in a wrong believer's settlement, and in the morning entered the road which led from Jetavana monastery into the city. If any asked her where she was going, she replied, I have been with the elder monk Gautam in one perfumed chamber, and he made love to me. After the lapse of some days they hired some ruffians to kill Sundari before Gautam's chamber and throw her body into the dust heap. And so they did. Then the wrong believers made a hue and cry after Sundari, and informed the king. He asked where their suspicions pointed. They answered that she had gone the last few days to Jetavana monastery, but what happened afterwards they did not know. He sent him to search for her. Acting on this permission, they took his own servants, and went to Jetavana monastery, where they hunted about till they found her in the dust heap. They brought the body into the town, and told the king that the disciples of Gautam had killed Sundari, and thrown her in the dust heap, in order to cloak the sin of their master. The king asked him to scour the city. All through the streets they went, crying, Come and see what has been done by the elder monks of the Shakya prince. And came back to the palace door. The king had placed the body of Sundari upon a platform, and had it watched in the cemetery. All the populace, except the holy disciples, went about inside the town, outside the town, in the parks and in the woods, abusing the brethren, and crying out, Come and see what the elder monks of the Shakya prince have done. The brethren told all this to the Buddha. Said the master, Well, go and rebuke these people in these words. To hell shall go he that delights in lies, and he who having done a thing, denies. Both these, when death has carried him away, as men of evil deeds elsewhere shall rise. The king directed some men to find out whether Sundari had been killed by anybody else. Now the ruffians had drunk the blood money, and were quarreling together. Said one to another, You killed Sundari with one blow, and then throw her in the dust heap, and here you are, buying liquor with the blood money. All right, "All right," said the king's messengers. And they caught the ruffians and dragged them before the king. "Did you kill her?" asked the king. They said, "Yes, they did." "Who asked you?" "The wrong believers, my lord." The king had the wrong believers summoned. "Lift up Sundari," said he, "and carry her round the city, crying as you go." This woman Sundari wanted to bring disgrace upon the elder monk Gautam. "We had her murdered. The guilt is not Gautam's, nor his disciples. The guilt is ours." They did so. A lot of the unconverted believed, and the wrong believers were kept out of mischief by receiving the punishment for murder. From then the Buddha's reputation grew greater and greater. And then one day they began to gossip in the Hall of Truth. Friend, the wrong believers thought to blacken the Buddha's repute, and they only blackened themselves. Ever since, our gains and glory have increased. The master came in, and asked what they were talking about. They told him. "Brethren," said he, "it is impossible to make the Buddha impure. Trying to stain the Buddha is like trying to stain a gem of the first class. In past ages people have wished to stain a fine jewel, and no matter how they tried, they failed to do it." And he told them an old world tale. Once upon a time, when Brahmadatta was king of Benares, the Bodhisattva was born into a Brahmin family. When he grew up, perceiving the suffering that arises from desire, he went away, and moved across 3 ranges of Himalaya, where he became a hermit, and lived in a hut of leaves. Near his hut was a crystal cave, in which lived 30 boars. Near the cave a lion used to move. His shadow used to be reflected in the crystal. The boars used to see this reflection, and terror made him lean and thin-blooded. Thought they, "We see the reflection because this crystal is clear. We will make it dirty and discolor it." So they got some mud from a pool close by, and rubbed the crystal with it. But the crystal, being constantly polished by the boar's bristles, got brighter than ever. They did not know how to manage it. So they determined to ask the hermit how they might sully the crystal. To him therefore they came, and after respectful greeting, they sat down beside him, and gave utterance to these 2 verses. 7 summers we have been 30 in a crystal grot. Now we are keen to dull the sheen, but dull it we cannot. Though we try with all our might to obscure its brilliancy, still more bright shines on the light. What can the reason be? The Bodhisattva listened. Then he repeated the 3rd stanza. It is precious crystal, spotless, bright, and pure. No glass, its brilliancy forever sure. Nothing on earth its brightness can impair. Boars, you had best take yourselves elsewhere. And so they did, on hearing this answer. The Bodhisattva lost himself in rapturous ecstasy, and became destined to Brahma's world. After this discourse was ended, the master identified the birth. At that time, I was the hermit. Source. Adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rouse. Jataka number 286. Sālūka-Jātaka. Envy not what celery eats, etc. This story the master told in Jetavana monastery, about the temptation springing from a fat girl. The circumstances will be explained in the Khuddaka story. So the master asked this brother whether it was true he had fallen in love. Yes, he said. With whom? The master asked. With a fat girl. That woman, brother, said the master, is your weakness. Long ago, as now, you became food for the crowd through your desire to marry her. Then at the request of the brethren he told an old world tale. Once upon a time, when Brahmadatta reigned in Benares, the Bodhisattva was an ox named Big Redcoat, and he had a young brother called Little Redcoat. Both of them worked for a family in some village. There was in this family a grown-up girl, who was asked in marriage by another family. Now in the first family a pig called Sālūka or Celery was being fatted, on purpose to serve for a feast on the wedding day. It used to sleep in a sty. One day, little Redcoat said to his brother, "Brother, we work for this family, and we help them to get their living. Yet they only give us grass and straw, while they feed you pig with rice porridge, and let it sleep in a sty. And what can it do for them?" "Brother," said Big Redcoat, "don't crave his porridge. They want to make a feast of him on our young lady's wedding day, that's why they are fattening him up. Wait a few days, and you'll see him dragged out of his sty, killed, chopped into bits, and eaten up by the visitors." So saying, he composed the first two stanzas. Envy not what celery eats. Deadly is the food he gets. Be content and eat your chaff. It means long life on your behalf. In due course of time the guest will come, with his gossips all and some. All chopped up poor Celery with his big flat snout will lie. A few days after, the wedding guests came, and Sālūka was killed and made a meal of. Both oxen, seeing what became of him, thought their own chaff was the best. The master, in his perfect wisdom, repeated the third stanza by way of explanation. When they saw the flat snout lie all chopped up, poor Celery, said the oxen, best by half surely is our humble chaff. When the master had finished this discourse, he explained the truths, and identified the birth. At the conclusion of the truths, the brother in question attained the fruition of the first path. At that time, the stout girl was the same, the lovesick brother was Sālūka, Ananda was Little Redcoat, and I was Big Redcoat myself. Source: adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rouse. Jataka number 287. Lābha-Garaha-Jātaka. He that has madness, etc. This story the master told at Jetavana monastery, about a fellow elder of the elder monk Sariputra. This brother came and greeted the elder monk, and sitting on one side, he asked him to tell the way in which one could get gain, and how he could get dress and the like. The elder monk replied, "Friend, there are 4 qualities which make a man successful in getting gain. He must get rid of modesty from his heart, must leave his holy order of disciples, must seem to be mad even if he is not. He must speak slander. He must behave like a dancer. He must use unkind words everywhere." Thus he explained how a man gets a great deal. The brother objected to this method, and went away. The elder monk went to his master, and told him about it. The master said, "This is not the first time that this brother spoke in criticism of gain. He did the same before." And then, at the request of the elder monk, he told an old world tale. Once upon a time, when Brahmadatta was king of Benares, the Bodhisattva was born in a Brahmin family. When he grew up to the age of 16 years, he had already mastered the 3 Vedas and the 18 accomplishments. And he became a far-famed teacher, who educated a body of 500 young men. One young man, a youth of virtuous life, approached his teacher one day with the question, "How is it these people get gain?" The teacher answered, "My son, there are 4 qualities which procure gain for those people." And he repeated the first stanza. "He that has madness, he that slanders well, that has an actor's tricks, ill tales did tell, such is the man that wins prosperity where all are fools. Let this your maxim be." The pupil, on hearing his master's words, expressed his disapproval of gain getting in the 2 following stanzas. "Shame upon him that gain or glory wins by serious destruction and by wicked sins. With bowl in hand, a hermit life I'll lead rather than live in wickedness and greed. Thus did the youth praise the quality of the ascetic life, and straight became a hermit, and craved alms with righteousness, cultivating the attainments, until he became destined to Brahma's world. When the master had ended this discourse, he thus identified the birth. At that time the brother who disapproved of gain was the young man, but his teacher was I myself.